This is more of a reflective piece, especially since I've grown personally so much since making content. If any of you listening are familiar with my content through my website or videos, you know that I decided to make Black women centered content because of the narratives that existed surrounding Black women. Many I found to be false or I did not agree with. And I even have an article on my website titled Narratives Are Ruining Black Women's Lives. Be careful about what you internalize, which you should all read if you haven't. Now, a narrative within this context is basically a belief about something that is held by most of society, like a running narrative. For example, there is a belief held by society that Asian men are undesirable compared to other races of men. This is what many people think. And no matter how many good looking Asian men we see, or millions of women all around the world obsessing over an Asian man, we see that these narratives persist and will influence Asian men and how they view themselves for years to come. Now, back to Black women, I realized that life a lot of the time cannot really surpass your own expectations. It does happen rarely where someone could never imagine themselves in a certain situation and they could serendipitously find themselves in that situation. But typically, to have anything good in life, an amazing marriage, a great career, whatever that is, there is a level of belief that someone needs in the possibility to acquire those things for it to show up in their lives. And this is a concept in many different religions. And it's evident to us as Black women who live this experience that there are numerous negative narratives surrounding our existence, partly because many different groups resent us. And I've explained in detail about what misogyny is and why it's prevalent and why many people speak negatively on Black women. But we see that society holds many negative narratives around us. You know, it's always Black women are this, Black women are that, Black women aren't seen as this, Black women are seen as that, this is why Black women are this. And before my growth, when I saw any type of imagery or behavior that I felt reinforced these negative narratives that I thought were false, I became very triggered. And I think many Black women are triggered just as I was. And I see that by the constant back and forth I see Black women engaging. We're constantly the topic of conversation, and you will often see Black women asking, why this? Why are you saying that we are that? How can Black women be that when this is this, etc.? And so, especially when you are a Black girl or woman like myself, who in many ways does not align or fit in with many of the negative narratives that exist about Black women, it can be very damaging. So, an example you see is that these narratives nowadays around Black women being 304s or promiscuous or thoughts, with the regular highlighting of female rappers like Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B, who is not a Black woman, but you know, who cares about facts when it comes to Black women, and comparing them to angelic white female singers. But imagine yourself as a Black woman, a Black girl who is more modest, even virginal, and you know that, you know, there's even statistics that reinforce that Black women are not as promiscuous as other races of women. This can be very damaging because there is a mismatch between how you see yourself and how others may perceive your tribe. And so these type of things growing up were very bothersome to me, and I found it very unfair, and I know many of you feel the same. I see many of you in the comments on my website about how unfair it is to be part of a group that is constantly ridiculed and judged and held at a very different standard. But life can be unfair. But through growing up, I've come to understand, and I've written about this in my ebook, is that unfortunately, of course, as a human being, you know, you want people to see your good deeds. And as Black women, we want people to see our good traits. You know, we want people to see our positive side. But the reality is that on a large scale, and I'm not talking about your partner, your friend, on a large scale, no one, and there are reasons for this, No one is going to come and say black women are actually really modest. Have you seen these kind of statistics? Or black women are some of the most educated women, or I don't think any other group could thrive as much as black women have under the conditions they typically are under. Or no, black women are not gold diggers. The data actually highlights this. Or black women are beautiful. Look at this woman's lips and eyes. This is all natural, no surgery, whatever it is. Society is never going to give us that. And you want that as a black woman, but you have to understand that you're never going to get that validation from society. I see black women online, and for example, our desirability is something that has always been constantly debated. And I have my thoughts on the false narratives that plague this idea on what makes a woman desirable. And I think the era of that area of dating and desirability is one of the places where false narratives really shine, because a lot of people are not really honest about what they look at in terms of when they pursue a woman, or what makes a woman more likely to be considered desirable. But you see black women saying things like, this isn't true. This random Caucasian billionaire has a black wife, and this means that. And look, it doesn't matter if the richest man on the planet had a black wife. You're never going to get that confirmation from society. It doesn't matter that in such places, they're typically dominated by white and Asian women, and a black woman occupying that space actually may mean something about the type of men who are open to dating them. But society doesn't care. They're never going to look at things without bias. They're never going to weigh up certain things and ask questions, because we look at things through a bias, and we look at things based on how we want to see them. Like someone was saying before, people will make noise about a black woman going to a black tech event trying to find a partner, a romantic partner, but Asian and white women actively seek men for money all the time, and it's no issue. And the reality is, as a black woman, you have to accept that you're not going to get your flowers, the flowers that you deserve, from society. And, at its core, there is nothing to gain from this world. And I'm not talking about individually. You can have the life you want, but I'm talking about this tribe that we belong to. Being a black woman, no one is going to reinforce us as a whole. No one. I know there are traits and characteristics and things that we see within ourselves that are positive, but no one is going to come and reinforce that for us. And of course, I've talked about separating yourself from the label of being a black woman and just being Brenda or Keisha. And that's also a way to disengage from the narratives. But personally, I love being a black woman, and I see it as an honor to be one. So you have to learn not to look outside yourself, as Jesus told us to be in the world, but not of the world. And these are not just words, these are things you have to internalize, you have to meditate on. As a black woman, you cannot rely on this world to tell you who you are. You need to stop seeking validation from this world, because it's not going to tell you the truth about who you are. And if you base your choices on what others tell you or the running narratives, you are unlikely to reach your full potential as a black woman. I want you all to take some time and get to a point where we can block out the external noise and know that it doesn't matter. We have to keep a tunnel vision to reach our goals and not get distracted. However you want black women to be seen, you're never going to get it. So focus on yourself and forget the world. Like, that's all I can say. Forget it. Stop begging the world to see you as beautiful, to see you as smart, to see you as someone with moral. Society is not even worthy to put on a pedestal the way many of you have put it. You care too much, and your eyes are too much on what's outside of you. And most people are broken themselves. It's a biased world, it's a fake world. Disengage and focus on yourself.